All right, today we're unpacking a really strange but incredibly powerful idea from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. And really, it's his attempt to solve one of the oldest, most painful puzzles humanity has ever faced.
So here's the mystery at the heart of it all. For thousands of years, the ideals that have really dominated civilization have been all about, well, rejecting life, denying the body, even embracing suffering. You've got to ask yourself, why? Why on earth would an ideal that seems to work against our own best interests become so ridiculously successful? That's the puzzle we're going to try and solve together.
And Nietzsche, he had a name for this whole thing, the ascetic ideal. Basically, it's any system of belief that makes self-denial seem like a good thing, like a virtue. But the really crucial part, the piece that unlocks this whole mystery, is right at the end there. It provides meaning to our suffering, and that changes everything.
So to really get why this ascetic ideal was so wildly successful, first we've got to understand the problem it was actually designed to solve. And that is the terrifying universal riddle of human suffering.
And this is where we get to Nietzsche's first big insight. He says, look, human beings are unbelievably resilient. We can put up with so much pain, so much hardship and loss. But there's this one thing we just cannot stand. And that's the feeling that our suffering is totally, completely pointless. It's the absurdity of it all that just breaks us. And you can see this pretty clearly, right? On one hand, you have pain that has a purpose. Think of an athlete just grinding through a workout to win a championship. That's bearable. You can push through it. But then you have that absurd, random pain. And that feels completely unendurable. It doesn't make you stronger. It just leads to this kind of psychological paralysis.
And this wasn't just some abstract idea from 19th century philosophy. Fast forward a few decades, and you have the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. He built his entire approach to therapy, which he called logotherapy, on this exact same principle. What he discovered through the most horrific circumstances imaginable is that the human spirit isn't really searching for pleasure. It's searching for meaning. Okay, so if we agree that meaningless suffering is the absolute worst, the real horror, what actually happens inside our minds when we're faced with it? Well, to answer that, we've got to look at what Nietzsche called the human will.
No, Nietzsche was massively influenced by another philosopher, Schopenhauer, but they had one huge point of disagreement. See, Schopenhauer thought that the will, that inner drive we all have, could be quieted down, that you could actually reach a state of peaceful rest. Nietzsche, he thought that was complete nonsense. For him, the will is this relentless, unstoppable force. You can never turn it off. The only thing you can do is redirect it.
So this leads to a pretty fascinating and frankly kind of terrifying question. If our will has to be aimed at something always, what happens when there's no positive, life-affirming goal anywhere in sight? What does the will do when you're just stuck in that awful state of meaningless suffering? And this right here, this is Nietzsche's famous answer, and it is the absolute heart of this whole idea. He says that the human will cannot stand a vacuum. It has to have a target, and if it can't find a positive one, it'll latch onto a negative one. It will literally choose to aim at the void, at nothingness itself, rather than have no aim at all. He calls this nihilistic willing, and it's a really tricky, counterintuitive idea, so stick with me. This is not the absence of will. That's more like depression or apathy. No, this is an active will. It's a will that has chosen the denial of life as its grand project. It's basically a way to keep the engine of the will running, even if that means throwing the car into reverse and slamming on the gas. Okay, but this will to nothingness doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. This is where a very specific character enters our story. The one who figures out how to harness this impulse, how to weaponize it, and turn it into this incredibly powerful system of control. Nietzsche introduces us to the figure of the ascetic priest, but it's really important to get this. He doesn't see this person as just some simple, finger-wagging moral leader. Not at all. He sees the priest as a brilliant psychologist, a kind of ingenious doctor for all the people who are suffering. This priest gets it. He understands the pure horror of meaningless pain, and he comes up with this incredible, clever cure. So here's how the priest's treatment plan works. It's genius, in a dark way. Step 1. A person is suffering, right? They feel that awful, meaningless pain. Step 2. The priest makes his move. He invents a meaning. He leans in and tells the sufferer, hey, you're not in pain for no reason. You're in pain because you're guilty. You actually deserve this. And bam, just like that, the will has a brand new target, self-punishment.
The absurdity is gone. The pain suddenly makes sense inside this new moral story.
But, and this is a huge but, this cure, as clever as it is, isn't really a cure at all. It's more like a medication that comes with some really, really nasty side effects.
The priest's solution is a total double-edged sword. I mean, on the one hand, it totally works. It saves the person from that psychological paralysis of meaninglessness. It literally keeps the patient alive. But on the other hand, it's a slow-acting poison. It infects them with a new, and maybe even deeper, sickness.
So let's look at this trade-off. The cure makes the suffering make sense, right? But the poison is that it piles a whole new layer of guilt on top of the original pain. It stops you from falling into that paralyzed state, sure, but it only does that by masking the real symptoms. And here's the bottom line. It keeps the patient from just giving up, but it also pretty much guarantees they'll never, ever truly get well.
All right, so after all that, why does any of this matter? I mean, why are we talking about this philosophical detective story from more than 100 years ago? Why does it still feel so relevant? Well, you have to ask yourself, have we really escaped this dynamic? Think about it. How often do we, even today, look for ways to explain our suffering as something we somehow brought on ourselves, something we deserve? Do we still aim our will at self-denial? Maybe just in different, more modern-looking packages. And this brings us to what might be Nietzsche's most provocative, most challenging thought of all. He argued that the ascetic ideal never actually died, it just changed its clothes. And its modern form? He says it's science. Just think about it for a second. The will to truth, the drive to find the truth no matter the cost, that's its own kind of self-denial, isn't it? It demands that we sacrifice our most comforting myths, our cozy illusions, all on the altar of cold, hard, objective fact. It's a rejection of beliefs that make us feel safe, in favor of a reality that, well, might not. So the question that leaves us with is a big one. What comforting illusions are we sacrificing today in our own quest for truth? And is that truth, no matter how harsh it might be, always worth the price?